The 10th of the 6th, 2025. The time is 6 minutes past 8, and we are back again like Hakkinen. There are very many F1-centric threads at which we need to pull. In the first instance, Peter Bayer, CEO of Racing Bulls, talking about the legends over at Red Bull and whether Max Verstappen can indeed... 10th of the 6th, 2025. The time... Yeah, of course. Technical difficulties, any? Do you know what I mean? Sort your life out, Cameron. Peter Bayer, CEO of the Racing Bulls, talking about whether Maximilian Verstappen can overcome the not insubstantial odds. 49 points is the deficit as at the time of writing, and win himself a 5th consecutive championship. So too, we'll talk about Frederick Vasseur. Pressure settings now for the man known as team principal of Scuderia Ferrari. It's going to get techie for that chap. It always was going to get techier than techie things. So too, we'll talk about Arvid Lindblad. The next one, the heir apparent to Maximilian Verstappen's throne, is he not? Some said. Now he's gotten himself special approval from the FIA to compete in Formula One, as your boy is having technical difficulties all over the shop. Techier than techie things. Go on then. In the first instance, let's talk about Peter Bayer, because he's come out and said that he thinks you could never, you should never, you would be a fool to ever count out Maximilian Verstappen. And you know what? I don't disagree with that chap. Here's what he's had to say. Certainly Spain was tough for the four-time champ, but I did hear that halfway through the race, Max Verstappen, with his three-stop strategy, was on a very good trajectory to put lots of pressure on the McLarens, notwithstanding his not insubstantial vehicular deficit. But then things unfolded differently, and that's where it went south. Max, certainly, you can never rule that dude out. Honestly, I prefer not to interpret too much into what the other teams are doing, what they're going through when we're in the sessions and when we're completely separated. It's our brother, though, is Maximilian Verstappen, and I wish for them things to be easier. I mean, what? Of course, mate. I don't have the bloody car is the issue, Peter Bayer. Some would say that Maximilian Verstappen would stand a better chance of jumping in that white Racing Bulls car and then going head to head with the likes of bloody Lando Norris and Oscar Jack Piastri. Of course, because that car's easy to drive, quicker, some would say, as your boys, technical difficulties all over the shop. But we continue, we move. Let's talk about Frederick Vasseur. It was always going to get techier than techie things for Frederick Vasseur. Fred the Shred over at the Bulls that are red. And the legend that is Joe Saywood, for the avoidance of doubt. All journos are created equally, but some are created more equal than others. Joe Saywood has his ear permanently to the F1 rumour mill floor. Here's what he's had to say. It's probably inevitable that Frederick Vasseur's future is beginning to be questioned. No kidding, Sherlock. 170-something points adrift in the constructors, and this is only round 9. We're barely 1/3 of the way through the championship. They finished barely 14 points adrift of McLaren in the constructors last year. So what therefore has changed? Help me. Non-rhetorical question, because I can't explain it. Of course, you can talk about the stubbornness of Ferrari. They knew what the meta was. Pull rod suspension settings at the front, and they did not do it. Only now, in the final year of this rule and reg spec, how very dare they, Scuderia Ferrari, bringing Enzo Ferrari's name, bringing shame even on the family name. It's not good enough, is it? And now all of a sudden, in the final year of this rule and reg, before 2026, they decide that they're going to change 99% of the car. What for? Is this not the law of diminishing returns? Are we making very noddy, low-level decisions still at Scuderia Ferrari? Yeah, of course, 2.0 seconds for pit stops. Copy. Point taken. That's good. But that is the exception as far as sporting endeavour par excellence that proves the Ferrari rule. Now, Frederick Vasseur, if past his prologue, will have himself 3 years to change this around, to win some silverware, to bring success to Scuderia Ferrari. Then their red cars, yellow badge, black prancing horse atop. This, if I recall correctly, is his 3rd year. Not even false seeming can continue to pretend, make us believe that Ferrari are capable of winning races and therefore championship. They do not have the car chat. Not good enough, I tell you. It isn't good enough. And especially when you consider the fact that Charles Leclerc's over there, he's 7th year, so too Sir Lewis Hamilton. Ergo, you can't blame it on the drivers. It will have to, the buck will have to be with Frederick Vasseur, sadly. And I like the dude. I think he's a brilliant racing mind. Speak to anybody that's worked with Frederick Vasseur and they will tell you as much. Ever such a nice guy. Worked with Sir Lewis Hamilton at ART back in the day. Do you know what I mean? He's a good dude. You wish the best for him. But this, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, as far as the Tifosi are concerned, is not good enough. Before him, it was Bonotto, Arriba Bene, Stefano Domenicali. But how did it go for them? Nobody's going to tell me that Frederick Vasseur is better, a better racing mind than each and every single one of them. Ergo, it feels like the sword of Damocles is a coming for the one that they call Frederick Vasseur. I think the one that they call Joe Saywood might be onto something. Dodgers cap, no chance, Jams. Verstappen should be sacked to chide his F4. Exactly that, Jules. Not good enough, that Verstappen fella. He's got to do better. 49 points is too far to be adrift of Oscar Piastri. Even if you take into account the car, the vehicular deficit with which he's been wrestling. You are talking about replacing the spice of Formula One with a rookie, $1 billion asset. So we'll come on to the Verstappen thing. General trading. You're a legend. He wouldn't be able to compete in bloody Nora. Go on then. Let's talk about this Arvid Lindblad stuff. So, dude currently in F2, and Helmut Marko said on a gazillion occasions that to try and find themselves a Maximilian Verstappen replacement, they'd be on a hide into nothing. That's never ever going to happen. That's over-ambitious, reachy even. Maximilian Verstappen is a once-in-a-lifetime, once-in-a-generation talent, and to try and find a replacement for him, exercising futility setting. But that being said, surely that's what they've got to do. Those are the cards that they're potentially being dealt. If, of course, Max Verstappen doesn't have the minerals, the things around him, the car, the people, the intellectual property around him, using which even, he can win himself a bloody championship. He will leave, therefore, potentially, some say. Who's coming next? Well, Hajar you've got, and he's performing brilliantly in 2025. I thought that dude was a numpty, that he was going to be rubbish. Mistake PLC, but he's not been half bad, Isaac. Of course, there was the formation nap error in Australia, but since then, he hasn't been half bad. That Isaac Hajar chap, he's been all right. Do you know what I mean? Now, can he take the place of a Max Verstappen? Probably not. But could he take the place of a Tsunoda-san? Probably. And are they going to get rid of Tsunoda-san in 2026 when they no longer have a relationship with his sponsor Honda? No longer will they be getting $20 million at the altar of Tsunoda-san sponsorship? Of course they will. So who to put in that car alongside Max Verstappen then? The poison chalice seat. Do you know what I mean? Driving an RB22 then that will be difficult, temperamental, understeery in the low speed turns, snap oversteer settings in the medium to high speed ones. Who's going to drive that car, chap? Now, you know already that Nico Rosberg said if he were Isaac Hajar and they offered him that seat, he would run a mile. He would decline with immediate effect without second guessing. And I'm not sure that that's the... Nico, behave yourself, mate. Listen, if you have a chance to drive at the head table, the Red Bulls alongside Max Verstappen, and you're a young, hungry lion, then you must take it. Ultimately, it might kill your career, as it very rarely did do to Daniel Kvyat, to Alex Albon, Danny Rick before them, Liam Lawson now most recently. But you've got to take that chance, surely. If you're a young, hungry lion, always harboured aspirations to take a seat, to be head of the table, then you've got to roll that dice. You have to take that chance. I would argue, therefore, Nico Rosberg, if Isaac Hajar gets it, then he will want to take it. You know what, actually, before I forget, before we get knee deep into the Red Bull, I'm dotting around here, it's chaos today. Before we get knee deep into the Red Bull thing and Arvid Lindblad, let me tell you about this. Have you guys seen this? Calendar settings. I mean, bloody Nora. Not a lot's changed there apart from one thing critically. Remember, every single year they will do as they're doing this year and kick off the European leg of the circuit. Do you know what I mean? You'll get Monaco, and then all of a sudden after Monaco, they fly halfway around the world and go to Canada, Montreal, Gilles Villeneuve circuit. What are we doing here? This makes no sense, especially if we're having the conversation under the umbrella heading of sustainability. I mean, of course, these guys and girls, the freights need to go all over the world, and the cost, and so too the drivers, the staff, the team principals, etc., etc. But you're not going to tell me, Mohammed Ben Sulayem, and anybody else who's holding the red pen around the logistics of Formula One in 2025, that it's best, that it's set, fair, fit for purpose for us to kick off 3 races of the European leg and then fly half a way around the world to the Canadian Grand Prix. What? Because of sponsorship duties. What are you talking about? This makes no bloody sense. And this is what F1 fans have been crying and screaming about for the longest time. Now, finally, chat, you see what they've done there? They've put Canada in the midst of Miami. So it goes Miami on the 1st to the 3rd of May, and then we go 22nd to the 24th of May, the Canadian Grand Prix, Circuit de Gilles Villeneuve. Hallelujah. Finally, they've been listing. But now the problem is this. This year, Monaco, you remember Zach Brown had a private jet ready in case none of his 2 squires in OJP and Lando Norris managed to drop it on pole. He was going to fly out to the Indy 500. Monaco has always sat on the same date as the Indy 500. Why would you do that? Why would you look to separate attention dollars? This doesn't make sense. Don't divide and conquer. Surely you've got to be cohesive with your planning. If Indy 500 is on a certain day, surely the Monaco Grand Prix can go on a different day. Am I being too daft here, too high in my expectations? Well, now apparently they've done it, because the Canadian Grand Prix, only 1 in 5 years, I hear, is going to coincide with the Indy 500. How that's going to work, I don't know. Going to get techie, but thank God for once that the guys and girls over at the FIA, Formula One, Liberty Media, the commercial rights holder, have got their logistical ducks in a row and made sure that there's not a bloody you don't need to start the European circuit and then fly half a way around the world to the Canadian Grand Prix. For that makes no sense. Go on then, let's talk about Arvid, because it's going to get a bit techier than techie things for that chap, because I think he might be the next one. This isn't me talking. This is more Dr. Helmut Marko. He said again, of course, that you can't get yourself another Max Verstappen, but what they're looking for is the next Red Bull champion. And after Max's record, Dr. Helmut Marko, head of the Red Bull Junior program, his record hasn't been all of that fantastic, has it? Ralph, you're an absolute legend. Welcome, chap. And if you want to become a member of the channel, Elated Peddler, you'll get yourself a couple of different things. Access to Discord, using which we continue these F1 modes of discourse. So too, you'll get yourself priority in the chat when we're going back and forth and go long, like on a day like today. Talk It Tuesday. So too, you'll get yourself access to some sexy emojis. Thank you so much, Ralph. You're a legend. On Arvid, 17 years old in the first instance, so he can't then get himself a drive, not even in FP1. Why? Because the Maximilian Verstappen rule. 2015, Max Verstappen joined the F1 grid at the ripe old age of 17. People said then that was far too young, too much pressure. And since the FIA amended for the rules to make sure that they could never make the mistakes of Christmas past again, you need to be 18 years old. You need to hold yourself a driver's license, a civilian one, not the super one. That means, therefore, that as at the time of writing, Arvid Lindblad could not drive an F1 car. But Red Bull have put in a exemption plea, saying, we know you've got this rule, but we've got this guy and we think he's a very special talent. Could you make an exception for this fella then? Currently in F2, I want to say he's currently in 5th in that championship, therefore acquitting himself fairly well. He's won himself a feature race, at least one if memory serves. So then why not get this dude in, especially if you've got a chap in Maximilian Verstappen who is only 1 point, 12 points currently on his super license, 1 point away therefore from a race ban. What will they do then, chat? You tell me. Here's what I think they'll do. I think they'll promote, if that's the eventuality, if we're having the conversation and the umbrella heading of a cheeky 1 race ban for Maximilian Verstappen between now and the Austrian Grand Prix, this is what I reckon they'll do. I reckon they'll promote Isaac Hajar to the seat at the top table. Roman Reigns settings, acknowledge me. Then at Racing Bulls, I think they'll promote Arvid Lindblad and displace one of Yuki Tsunoda or Liam Lawson. Oh, the humanity. That's techie, eh? Can you imagine Isaac Hajar? Hang on, I've flopped it, haven't I? If Maximilian Verstappen gets a 1 race ban, Yuki Tsunoda +1. So who's the +1 going to be? Isaac Hajar or Arvid Lindblad? Potentially they've got to go Hajar. Too much experience, too much momentum. Put him in that car. Now, could it be the end of him? Of course, but you won't know unless you try. You've got to suck it and see sometimes now. I think they'll put him in and then promote Arvid Lindblad to the Racing Bulls and get rid of... It's got to be Liam Lawson now. In fact, no, what are you talking about, Cameron? Your maths is all off. It would be Lindblad and Lawson and Racing Bulls, and then it would be Hajar and Tsunoda. What the fudge? I mean, chaos settings, any. I can't even comprehend it. But you know what? It's put a smile on my face at the thought. So here's hoping that it happens, but I want to see Arvid Lindblad in a car as soon as possible because everybody's saying he could be the next one as well when you see the footage. Look, gumption isn't always what people make it. I kept hearing people say about OJP that he's just got that way about him. He looks and feels and smells like a champion. So cool and level-headed is he. And I think sometimes as onlookers, as passers-by, as far as F1's concerned, we invest too much in this anecdotal evidence per se. But as far as Lindblad, there's a couple different things that we know. 4 years ago, he looked Lando Norris in his face and he said, I want you to remember me because I'm going to see you on the F1 grid in 5 years' time. It will be 5 years' time in 2026. Oh, the humanity. How gangster is that, chat? Look Lando Norris in his face and say, I'll see you later, mate. And make sure that you're not late, not even 1 second delayed. I love that as a story. They'll write books about that dude, especially if he jumps in a car next year and he's bloody quick. Oh, the humanity. Agreed. If you could drink it in Europe at 16, why not? Well, fair play. Tech even. I see predictive switching off isn't a quirk. Herzo says, crybaby with Lindblad. Is he a crybaby, really? I don't see that in him. I haven't seen that in him yet, at least. Absolutely not. A 17-year-old is a kid. We're debating the age at which you should be able to drive. I think 17's all right in the UK. I've never hated that. I learned quick 17 years and 1 month your boy had his license. At some rate, a rookie might be born after Nando's. I know they're getting younger and younger by the second, aren't they, Benzie? Take it and take it. So go on, and what do you think? Let me know in the chat. Do you fancy seeing Arvid Lindblad? And under what circumstances? Will it be a Max Verstappen race ban? Potentially, or potentially not. Will it be next year when they get rid of Tsunoda? It's going to be either which way. It's going to be super techie. And why did they give him the exemption? Kimi Antonelli got one as well last year, right? But why are they giving out these bloody exemptions? Go on then, leading up to the Canadian Grand Prix, it's going to be techie and techie things. I'm hearing, we'll do the preview later on in the week, but I'm hearing that there is a not insubstantial risk of rain. Oh, the humanity. In come the Reagan-meisters, therefore, Canadian Grand Prix. So too, I keep hearing this stuff about the bloody circuit not being fit for purpose anymore. What are we doing here, Montreal? I just don't even... Sometimes beggars belief as far as all things F1's concerned. You know what I mean? And Lance... Okay, go on then, Benzie. Since you've asked, Lance Stroll is going to be a hot topic as well, right? Because I hear, if word on the F1 curb is something in which you can be invested, that Lance Stroll will be in attendance at the Canadian Grand Prix. Oh, the humanity. Felipe Drugovich, therefore, will participate at Le Mans for Cadillac F1. I just hate, for Felipe, I just hate this all round the shop. It's so bad. It's so bad that Lance Stroll thought that last race weekend it was acceptable all the while to know that you've got pain in your wrist that could jeopardise your ability to compete in the race before you cede the position and bend the knee to Felipe Drugovich. You jumped in the car and sacked off everybody's opportunity. How very selfish of that chap. Again, I didn't have a lot of goodwill for the Nepo baby that is Lance Stroll, Lawrence's son, the owner of the team. I didn't have a lot of goodwill for him because of some of his behaviour, his countenance and attitude, the way in which he carries himself. I don't think he curries favour very well. His personality doesn't jump off the page like a Lando or a Lewis or a Max to a certain extent. Do you know what I mean? It's different. He just strikes me as a dude who doesn't want to be there. And then you find out that he always knew about the risk that he wouldn't be able to compete last race weekend. But he did it anyway. Do you know what I mean? He's one of those ones. He's a young kid that just, if we both can't have it, do you know what I mean? Oh, sorry, if I can't have it, then neither one of us can. Do you know what I mean? He's one of those selfish ones, and it's really painful, particularly under the umbrella heading of getting Felipe Drugovich that opportunity. It's been around too long now. I want to say when F2 in 2022. That is ages ago, alongside Teo Pourchaire, who won the very next season after him. What are they doing? Wasting away, just as OJP was on the Alpine suspension. Now, is bloody Felipe Drugovich sat there in them their green overalls, doing absolutely nothing. It breaks my heart to see a young driver, a hot prospect, just waste away, not yet getting his shot at glory in an F1 car. What are we doing here? It's unacceptable, but it's not facts. You're just speculating. What are you saying? Are you responding to, Joe? Too many essential losses of team members of late with Christian Horner. Max will break the camel's back if he... Sergeant, I don't disagree, mate. I think you're barking up the right tree here. Houston, they have a mega problem. Did we go through the names again? I feel like we've had this conversation a gazillion times. Did we go through the names again? Marshall, Newey, Fallows. Like, what are we doing? Wheatley. There's going to be a downside impact in the short term of losing them their god tier racing mate. Wheatley, Wheatley especially. Hajar needs full three years of rocket ship, not to be sacrificed at the desk of infighting and but what you've said there, Troy, is unreasonable in its aspect though. How do you expect there not to be infighting at Red Bull Racing? Red Bull Racing sons infighting is an oxymoron now. You've passed this prologue. Horner, Verstappen, Mintzlaff, Mateschitz, Yavidra now looking at Horner with a side-eye, the sceptical hippo face. Mate, it's going to get techier than techie things. I don't know what the solve is. You guys tell me what you predicting. I put in the community tab the other day, right? Who leaves first, Tsunoda-san or Christian Horner? I don't know the answer. That it's close is chaos. That we even need to think about it is bonkers, bearing in mind who Christian Horner is now and has been and will always be, as far as being the dude that built the house that is the Bulls that are red, live by the sword, die by the sword, says Benzi. Lance Stroll is the reason we need 12. Mate, don't even do it. Oh no, don't glaze Oscar, please. Go on then, Benzi. Let's talk about Oscar Piastri since you raise it. How can you not? It's been all right, chap. Couple mistakes of consequence this season. But apart from those, he's been... Okay, what did Oscar need to do as his principal strategic objective this year? Beat Lando Norris. Now, is he optimised for his circumstance? Should he be further down the road than 49 points as versus Max Verstappen? Absolutely. But lest we forget, this is only his third season. He hasn't been too bad. The overtaking manoeuvre on Max Verstappen a couple of races ago. I mean, if Max is who you think he is, okay, even if Oscar does have the quickest car, then that's not bad going from Max. Do you know what I mean? James Allen said very succinctly and very apropos of the overtake from OJP on Max that it almost felt inevitable. About whom have we been using that word in perpetuity these days over the past 9 rounds? None other than Maximilian Verstappen. Some of those qualifying laps, Suzuka as an example, notwithstanding the adverse circumstances, he just felt inevitable, chap. He just felt like that dude was going to put him on port, as we have 333 concurrent viewers in the chat. Can you imagine? Pathetic fallacy, any. So I don't know. I think if we're starting to talk about OJP, if James Allen, with the knowledge and data bank as far as all things F1 is concerned, that he has, if he's starting to leverage the adjective that is inevitable at OJP, then I think you want to start taking that. Being honest, I think we need to start taking that. He's not been too bad. Benzi, Max can get away with pretty much anything on the track. Oof. Apparently not, Benzi. Do you know what I mean? I mean, he's good. He's good. There's something I'm gonna put. I'll play it for you tomorrow at some point when your boy's day job cessates ever so slightly. But there's and Colossally That's History podcast. Matt Bishop was talking about Mika Hakkinen, one of his interviews, and he was talking about the reason why Mika Hakkinen loves an oversteery car, the ability to manipulate it and on and around the limits of it. But Mika Hakkinen says it better than almost anybody that I've ever heard it. And it reminds me of Max. Max is getting the ban, says Joe. Oh no, yep, it's official. Get the job done, leave the stage, and the rest ruminate. That's gangster. Donate it. Although I don't know about what you're talking quite there, James. But you're a legend. And thank you so much for the donation the other day, James. You're a legend. Largest front row percentage in season. First Senna, second Prost, third Hill, fourth Rosberg. Really? I don't believe it. That's them. There's fake news, Ricky. It looks like fake news. Would have been great for Strolovich. Drogovic switch. I don't know why they didn't do it. It's so annoying, Benzi. Don't get me started again. Do not get me started. Mika is top 10 ever. Oh. So go on then. There's a really good analysis. Let's talk about Mika very quickly. I'm gonna devote a whole episode over the next couple of days to Mika before the Canadian Grand Prix. And again, go and check out I forget the bloody name of it. And Colossally That's History podcast. Matt Bishop and Richard Williams, I want to say. Apologies if I butchered the chap's name. It is Richard Williams. What are you talking about? And in there they reference Martin Brundle, who says, if I had to bet my life, to race for my life, and I had to choose between Schumacher and Hakkinen, I would choose Mika for the pole, but Michael would go away and win the race. And I think that's very well said and very apropos. He's judged that very well as Martin Brundle, being the goated F1 mind that he is. Barcelona tantrum, baby weekend. Wrist injured from a tantrum out of his car. Apparently he hit the wall, didn't he, Lance? Out of anger because he'd been out-qualified yet again by his mate over on the other side of the garage, the one that they call Fernando Plan Alonso. Mika top 10. I don't know. You're telling me that there's not 10 better drivers. Shall we do it? I think there is 10 better drivers in F1 history. Quick. Better than Mika. Of course there is. Should we go for it? I think we'll save it for Canadian Grand Prix. We'll have time to talk. But I think that he's not top 5. Jim, Lewis, Max, Michael, Ayrton, Prost, Nicky, Jackie, PK. That's 9 already. Like, what are we doing here? Seb, maybe. Mika out-qualified Senna. No, he was quick. He was rapid. Don't get it twisted, visual. Nobody's debating his speed. That's why Martin said he'd put him on pole. But to win the race, he went Michael. If that doesn't work, Max will oh my gosh, Scott there. Mika was on Mansell's levels, out of body drive. Yeah, I agree with you. Matt Bishop on the Colossally That's History. Colossally That's History podcast said something similar about Nigel, that Nigel drove with an energy, like a verve, that meant that you could almost see that it was Nigel, even if you couldn't see his helmet. That the car, when Nigel was in it, moved with a sort of effervescence that was typical. Like, it was atypical of other drivers, but it was peculiar to Nigel Mansell behind the wheel. I thought it was really interesting, and I agree with him. Super powerful because of the cam curves. Right, chat, I'm going to run. I'd normally go longer, but you can hear me all bunged up. And plus, I've got to log on and do some more work. You guys have been legends. I apologise for the curtailed stream. I will, within the next 24 hours, get a cheeky newsletter out on the community tab as always. If you haven't done already, do yourself a favour and join the club. Become an elated peddler. Get yourself access So a couple different things worthy of note. The bloody discourse. What are you on about, Cameron? The Discord. Priority in the chat each and every single time. And a couple different sexy emojis. Your boy apparently is coming down with something. Cam's YouTube ads. Last one was Lando. Was it Lando? Bloody Dora. Lando and his monster thing. His monster jig. You guys have been legends. Between now and next time, same place, same time, tomorrow, the prosecution rests. No further questions, Your Honour.